Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Witch Cafe. I'm your host, Pricilla Stone. Thank you so much for anybody new listening, whether you're listening on YouTube or that UFO podcast website. I want to thank you for coming. Your support is very, very appreciated. Tonight, we have a disclosure activist, and I call him like an information addict because this guy's always spewing out facts on his TikToks and his short videos on YouTube, or sorry, not YouTube, on Instagram. So this is Dan Warren, if you don't know him already, and he's all about spreading truth from what I can see. I barely found out about Dan probably like a month ago, and I was like, where has this guy been? Because the videos are so like short, but they are like to the point. And for our brains nowadays, we kind of need like those like quick doses of truth and information. So we have a couple people on in the chat popping in. All right, Dan. So I have to know, and I'm sure other people want to know, how on earth did you get into this topic, and how on earth did you start making these awesome bite-sized videos?
Well, I always tell people that I got started thinking about artificial intelligence and potentially extraterrestrial entities by watching the Transformers when I was a kid, because that's exactly
Nice.
what those guys were. They were mechanical objects that were sentient beings as well. So I like to think that's where the seed was planted. But it's been one of those things that most people that are in this community, you've kind of dabbled in it throughout your life.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Files hooked us, a lot of us, I'm sure. There's different things that have drawn us into this, and there's different things about this topic that have also pushed us away. So there's been a constant back and forth type of a yo-yo effect throughout the course of my life with interest in this. And I'll tell you right now, the stigma is also something that's been prevalent throughout that entire duration of time.
Absolutely.
Like being ashamed to say that you're interested in this topic, even, or that you know facts about this topic is was hard to do until it's a lot easier to do now, but it's still awkward to bring it up in some situations. But man, that stigma is a powerful tool for them to use. But I mean, I've been getting into the discussion mainly because of Lou Elizondo is what it boils down to, because he was on a podcast with, well, I guess I always just put a disclaimer out there first that I am a first round TTSA investor, because I wanted to have some skin in the game when they came out on the stage and started talking about everything that they were wanting to do. I kind of liken it to, if you watch a basketball game, it's pretty entertaining. If you put money on a basketball game, you're going to pay way closer attention to everything the players do. And so that's what my motivating force was for investing in TTSA, was so that I could have motivation to stay up to date with the news that was coming out. Little did I know at the time that there would be so much news coming out shortly after that occurred. But that was one trigger event for me. Lou being on Andy's podcast, and then Luis's podcast, he had conversations with them about getting off the couch and having the conversation. So that was something that resonated with me. And I said, well, hey, no one at my house listens to me when I talk about UFOs. Maybe somebody online will. So I reached out to Luis at UCR and was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to try something, and asked him for a little help getting started. And he gave me some advice, and YouTube was intimidating and I was technically challenged. So I was like, what do I have at my disposal? A phone. And so I started making videos on TikTok. And that's kind of where it all started to grow organically from that point. We were talking right before this, like we're getting AV equipment for Christmas this year, and that's
nice.
Exactly what I'm asking for. I think most of us content creators are doing that now, so that's what's going to be in my stocking. But that's what got me involved. I wanted to have the discussion with other people, and I was on Twitter, but everybody on Twitter already knows everything about what's going on. So I started looking for, I call it a gap analysis, where are we not reaching out? And that was one location, was TikTok. So I noticed that there was no competition there at the time. Like, people are starting to move over and migrate towards it because it is a powerful distribution tool. And I got there and started honing my craft, I guess. And it's still a work in progress. It's still something I'll learn from as time goes on. But that has kind of helped me to amplify my voice. And the intent is to give people what I consider as accurate information as I can, and as short of a time frame as I can do it. I try to pack as much as I can into a short amount of time, because because attention spans are shrinking.
Right.
We got to compete for it. And
Absolutely.
I always say that the UFO topic is the king of long form conversation and discussion. So I went the opposite way. So that's where I ended up making these TikTok videos. And once again, like, if you learn something, you learn it at a certain level. But if you turn around and try to teach someone or explain it to someone, you have to learn it at a whole different level.
Oh yeah.
So it's been a big benefit to me and my research, which I don't like to use the word research, because people are going to hammer you if you say
Oh
you're a
my gosh.
researcher. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because you do research for your videos. Like, people don't realize that for 1 minute of video, it's hours of research.
Yeah.
So people just if you read a lot of things, you're a researcher.
So I think my handle on TikTok is like, I don't research UFOs. I investigate, or I research the UFO investigation, which is exactly what I think a lot of us, like, I'm a commentator. I'm not an experiencer.
Yeah,
I'm not a dig down onto one case for 15 years and
yeah,
get all the nuts and bolts, like the guys that do Roswell, or the guys that focus on other specific cases. Like David Marler is
yeah.
what I would say is the epitome of a researcher. I'm not that guy. I can't handle that type of focus. TikTok allows me for a broad spectrum of different topics that I can cover. Quantum computers to
Yeah.
UFO sightings to what's going on today with the approval of the NDAA through the
Yeah.
Senate. So it's just that I can open my aperture on TikTok like nothing else, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people want you to be, in many cases, all or nothing. They want you to be only for experiencers, or only nuts and bolts, or only this, or only that, or like, no, you haven't been on TV yet. You're not good to listen to, or they want everybody to fit in somewhere. And I think that there's plenty of room for people like you that want to cover more than just the same thing over and over. And there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously we've gotten some great books like the Rendlesham book, or like even the Trinity book. It focuses on a specific time point and certain events and places. But I think that what you do is going to reach the people that are looking for information fast. And the people that are on TikTok tend to want to scroll, and they tend to want to learn things quickly. So I think that what you're doing is very needed. I have seen a couple people doing UFO stuff on TikTok, but nobody does it the way you do. You're very professional. You're very concise. You've got the pictures in the back, which people like. Everybody likes pictures. So yeah, I appreciate what you do. And I did like your latest video, which we'll get to. I think it was your latest. It's a pinned video on your TikTok. So you said you haven't had any experiences yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
Nothing that I could say is a encounter.
Okay. And any lights in the sky or anything like that?
I got a night vision monocular about a year and a half ago, and I started sitting on my backyard and just kind of surveying the skies. And I saw two things that I would consider hard to explain, but I can't sit here and say, oh, it's something out of the ordinary.
Right.
My default is always going to be it's something prosaic until proven otherwise.
Yes.
But one was like an orb light like object that was floating around over my house. I think I calculated it at the size of a quarter if it was 30 feet over my house. The other thing was an object that was off in the distance, and I had a tripod out at that time, and I recorded it for 23 minutes, and it was just a
Wow.
single flashing light off in the distance, up in the, like, not at ground level. It was pretty high in the sky, but it was so stationary that the stars would roll past it
Oh,
over that
wow.
23-minute period. So I could put it
Crazy.
in the time lapse, and you can see it stays stationary while the stars are rotating around it for 23 minutes. It's just sitting
That's
there flashing
crazy.
once every 5 seconds. That's the one to me that I'm like, I still don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's very
Because
interesting.
that's a long time to be in the air,
Oh,
and that's a long time to stay perfectly locked in the sky. So
right.
that's the one to me. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to explain that.
Have you posted it yet, or are you still kind of
I
like,
Yeah, I have it on YouTube somewhere, but
oh, okay.
it's literally a blinking light. It's one frame at a time, and so I went through and pulled that frame out of the 23. That was monotonous of that 23-minute
Yeah.
footage, and just kind of threw it up there on a PowerPoint so that it would roll through it real quick and you can see it. But it's not eye candy, but
Well,
it's data.
yeah, a lot of things that civilians are catching are not eye candy. I don't know if you follow Jason on Instagram.
I can't
He
see. I'm not good at Instagram yet. I'm still
Okay,
in the
I'm gonna
learning
send you
curve.
his page because he goes out in a certain spot pretty much every night with a night vision binocular, and he only uses one eye of it, so it's basically monocular. And what he catches is he'll describe it. He's like, "What I was seeing was amber, but in the green night vision, it looks like what you're saying." So I'm gonna send you his. I'm gonna share his account with you because I think that you'll see most things that civilians are catching are not going to be that what everybody wants. Everybody wants
Yeah,
that high definition, um, you know,
cockpit video is what we
yeah, they
all
want the
want. That's it.
occupants same piece or So yeah, I think that's pretty cool that you caught that though. A lot of people haven't seen anything and still this subject really matters to them still. So I don't think that you have to see something in order to believe. So were you kind of like were there any movies that you liked that got you into this as well? Or was it just the To the Stars Academy awesomeness that when that all kicked off?
Well, Flight of the Navigator was real popular in my house when I
Oh
was a
my
kid.
gosh, yes.
We had four boys, and the youngest one was a girl. So there's five kids in my house. So we watched that.
Oh,
That was one of the movies that we watched a lot of. Was Flight
that's
of the
awesome.
Navigator.
I haven't heard that in a long time. So like I'm in my 30s, so my grandpa used to put it on for us.
Like I've made a TikTok about it, of course, and I have like a picture of me watching it with my kids. They look as bored as they could be, and I'm just wide-eyed and excited to see it. But
You're just like,
it's
check this out, guys.
it still holds up, man. There's another one called and I'm gonna blank on it. The Experiencers. No, that's not it. The Explorers. They make a warp bubble in their
Oh,
basement, and they make it real small at first, and it destroys the inside of their house until they can figure out how to control it. And then they make it big enough to where they can put a ship inside of it that they made out of trash cans. And then
gosh,
they
that
go out
sounds
into
familiar.
space. It's
I'm pretty
another
sure
one
I've
that
seen that too.
that one seems like there's some science behind it. But those, I mean, I was a kid, so those are the ones that stood out to me. ET never did it for me, to be
Yeah,
honest with
yeah.
you.
It's a nice thought, and ET's adorable, but yeah. I mean, the part where he's like in the hospital isn't so nice, but you know what I mean. It's nice to think that this nice extraterrestrial visits us and hangs out with some kids all weekend. We get
Yeah.
swooped up by the government. So I wonder myself, what does your research process look like? Like, say you see something you want to research, or see something you want to investigate, and you want to make a video about. How does that go down? Are you just like Googling away? Are you a notebook guy? Are you, like, how do you do that?
It's all on my phone for the most
Of
part.
course.
I'm migrating over to my computer because I can do more with the graphics that you see in the back of my videos as far as
Mhm.
preparation goes. But it's your phone is the correct format already to do research, to be able to
Yeah.
present it on TikTok. So it's an apple to an apple. So it's the easiest way for me to do it. But the big thing is I just look for something that's interesting to me. I don't want to do things that are boring to me,
Yeah.
because then I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
do them, and who would want to listen to me do something I don't want to do?
Yeah.
So that's my main thing, is what is it that is fascinating to me at the time, and then I always try to go back and say, okay, I don't want to tell you about this single event or the single point of data. I want to give you context around this so that people that aren't knee deep into this topic like we are can have a better feel for why is it significant that he's telling me what he's telling me. So I'll always try to go back and say, all right, was this comment or was this idea referenced at any other point in time in the last few months? And so I try to provide at least three things that would allow people to triangulate their thoughts on why is this a significant piece of information that has just been presented. So that's what one of the things I do is I'll actually throw questions out on Twitter every now and then and be like, hey, I'm looking for the comment that was made about this topic on this show, and I cannot remember where it is. Does anybody remember? And it's a hive mind on UFO Twitter. So if you remember something but you can't put your finger on it, throw the question out there. They will definitely help get you to the right place. That's a big benefit to us.
Absolutely. People give Twitter like a bad rap, but I've noticed if you're asking for something like that, like a source or a video, people answer so quickly, and it's very seldom that you get somebody being a jerk about it. That's everywhere though. You're gonna find people that everywhere.
Like I used to encourage people to join UFO Twitter and have the conversation, but I've kind of backed off of that. And like, if you want to, you can, but just do not engage with arguments, because like it's just like bad news. More people are going to share bad news than good news.
Yes.
And on Twitter, more people are going to vocalize their displeasure with your thought than people are going to hit that heart and give you a like if they agree with you. People are going to use their words if they disagree with you. And you tend to focus more on the words than the hearts, but try to keep it in perspective. More people agree with you than you think, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah. I was terrified to get on Twitter because I think I joined at the time where Anjali was first talking about her expedition and her experience with the beings in the mountain. So I think that I saw that happening and I was like, I'm never going to say anything on here. So I decided to keep myself low. And I wouldn't even put hashtag UFO Twitter in any of my thumbnails. And when I did, of course, somebody came out and was saying all these horrible things, but it died out quick enough. The guy apologized eventually because I was like, look, you don't know me, whatever. But it was so hard to not fight back. And then I was like, like you said, I have more support. The people that are supporting me mean more than the people that are jumping down my throat over something stupid. So yeah, you have to look at the positives on when you're putting yourself out there, because there's bound to be somebody that doesn't like what you're doing one day, but you do have more. I think that the light outweighs the darkness in that situation.
And you also have to keep in mind that when you're discussing a topic with people, there's three types of people. There's people that are either way, they're gonna take the information in and make a decision based on it. And then there's people that are going to believe anything they're told, and then there's people that are going to not believe anything that they're told. You want to talk to the people in the middle. You want to aim at those guys and have the conversation with them, because I don't know. Jacques Vallée doesn't know what's going on. If he doesn't, then I don't know anybody. I don't see how anyone could stand up and say, well, this is exactly what this is. It's too complicated.
Exactly. Nobody knows. Everything's on the table and off the table at the same time. So do you have any public speaking experience? Because I feel like you're very articulate, and I feel like the way you project your voice and everything. Do you do a lot of public speaking in your everyday life, or is this just something that you're doing because you're passionate about what you're doing?
People criticize me for having a monotone voice on
really?
my
Maybe
TikTok
I just
things. Yeah. So as soon as I started making TikTok videos, I showed them to my kids, and this is when I was just learning what to do. And within half a second, my daughter was like, "That's the most boring voice I've ever heard." But I've tried to amp it up a little bit. But I'm a much better speaker. So my background is engineering. And for an engineer, I'm outgoing.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
you put me in a club or a bar, and I'm gonna be pretty quiet. I'm soft spoken in those types of locations. But put me in a room where people are talking about a common topic, I become a speaker. I become a public speaker at that point, and that's something that has. The one piece of advice I always give people if they're trying to be successful in anything that they do is don't worry so much about your technical skills. Worry about your communication skills, because it doesn't matter how well you understand it. Until you can explain it to someone else, no one's going to care. I also started to speak publicly because when I first started my career as a fresh out of college engineer, I would go to these meetings where all these senior engineers would be there, and our
Oh man.
manager would have his monthly get together discussion. And at the end, he would say, "Does anybody have any questions?" Crickets. No one would say anything. And so I realized if I ask a question, I don't have to go back to work until he answers it. And so I could just sit there and at least ask something. And then later I found out from talking to him on a one-to-one basis, he was like, "I'm glad you talked during the meetings, because it's tough being the guy trying to have a conversation with people and it not being a two-way conversation, just talking. I'm
Yeah.
talking at people. I want people to ask me
Right.
questions." So that's when it kind of clicked for me. Like, it's important to talk. Even if
Right.
you're uncomfortable, you should ask questions so that you can become less uncomfortable and learn more about what's going on.
Yeah.
I got promoted fairly quickly, and became a talking head a lot more than an engineer at this point. So that's where my background with public speaking has come from. But a lot of it also was around PowerPoint presentations. So what I do on TikTok is what I do at work. I
Yeah.
give presentations and run my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, it's paid off for sure because you seem comfortable with it. I remember when I first started doing public speaking, I had to do like you always have to do a communications class, and one of them is public speaking. So I was studying molecular biology in Alaska, and I had finally got to my public speaking class, and I never really had to talk in front of people before. And I swear the first speech I gave was about space junk, and nobody cared, for one. And for two, it literally sounded like I swallowed a vibrator. Like my throat was like vibrating. And I couldn't I was like, oh my gosh, why is my voice like this? So it freaked me out more. And then I talked way too fast. So it was definitely hard for me to talk in front of people. Last year I got a little practice with a business that I had. Me and my partner would take turns doing lives on Facebook. And I remember I was so nervous, but now I'm okay. But yeah, I don't sound like a goat or something's vibrating in my throat the whole time now, which is nice. So you mentioned that your daughter said that what you're doing, one of your topics is boring, but what does the rest of your family think? What everybody always asks me, what does your husband think? Or, is she supportive? Is she into the topic? Or she's just like, okay, honey, great job. Or, just tolerates it or supports it, but doesn't really engage it. What is your family like around this topic?
So my most popular line that I've ever said on any of these podcasts was on the Big Phone Home 2 when they asked me that exact question. And my response was, my wife has opted out of my free nightly UFO updates in our kitchen, so she could care less. As long as someone else is listening to me talk about this stuff, she's fine with it, but she doesn't really care for it. She is a fitness aficionado. So
okay.
She's all about, and she does Zumba. She does all the dancing related stuff. So she's focused on that, and UFOs do not enter her thought process at all.
I feel that. My husband's an army engineer, so he's I tell him and he starts to listen, but then you just see his eyes just shut down,
which still to this day is one of the most amazing things about this whole topic. Is it's so enthralling to me to see this news coming out right now.
You get pumped, right? I get pumped.
This is such an amazing time to be into a topic like this that could possibly lead to being the biggest event in mankind's history.
Yes.
And we're sitting in the front row, and people don't want a free ticket to the show. It's crazy to me.
They'd rather see who was wearing what on the red carpet or whatever awards, celebrity gossip. And I'm like, guys, we just basically got told that we're being visited by some non-human intelligence, possibly. There's occupants, and then, all this cool stuff. It's in legislation now, and nobody cares. I don't want to say nobody, but trust me, I have a nobody around me in my immediate world wants to talk about this, which is nothing new. But I thought for sure, more people are coming around, but it's still not something I'm super something happens and I get really excited and I have to go talk to people on Twitter or Instagram because I need people to share the excitement with me, and I'm just like by myself, just like super excited about things and nobody to share it with. So I am thankful for this community, which I always say, but I mean it, because otherwise I'd just be like, before this year, these like thoughts were just like rolling around in my head, and I was like, A, nobody cares. B, nobody wants to talk to you. So, but this year, a lot has changed, thankfully, and just like you, I just wanted to talk about it with somebody.
Yeah.
Not even like to get it off my chest. You know, I am an early experiencer, so not only to talk, find a place to talk about that, but just to talk about all the actual like the nuts and bolts things happening, the legislation happening, the way it's being presented in media, in books with Avi Loeb and Ross Coulthart, and you know, all those guys that are taking it like into the professional realm, where more people are going to start listening because these guys are talking about it. So what was the event this year that was like, what's been the most exciting part of this year for you? Because we've made a lot of progress as far as, you know, I guess people say disclosure goes. A lot has happened. What part of this year, since we're towards the end of the year now, what part were you just like, kind of like, what do people say? Like I can't think of the word for it. Like they're, yeah, awestruck, disbelief. Yeah. Like, was there anything that happened this year like that? You're just like, holy shit, this is happening.
So obviously the legislation is going to be a big one, but everyone's going to say that. So I'm going to pick something else. Sometimes you don't realize the big moment until you've had a time to reflect on it, and you've seen how things have played out since then. So when John Ratcliffe went on the Maria Bartiromo, and I'll never be able to pronounce that name right, when he went on her show and talked about UFOs in an open manner, that, in my opinion, was the opening of the floodgates, because ever since that happened, politicians, Bill Nelson's, all these higher level government people started to speak up as well, including Obama on late night TV shows. Like I did a video about a week ago where they were saying, what's your viral video for TikTok this year?
Yeah.
And I went through the list of people of government employees and elected officials that have spoken about this openly. And it's just an enormous list of people.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was all kicked off when John Ratcliffe started talking, because after that, it just started to roll. It was like, okay, this is what this guy said this week. Next week, it was somebody else. Next week, it was somebody else. But he was the catalyst, I feel like. Whether or not he intended to be or not, I don't know. Yeah. But that was the event this year that stands out to me at this point. But I get to turn around and ask the host that same question.
Oh, me?
What was the one for you?
I know everybody says the Gillibrand amendments, but what really got me was when we first started hearing about that on Max Moskovich's channel, when they were in San Marino, and he received the preliminary language to that bill, and they're both like taking turns reading it. Like I am so serious when I say, like, if that's real to me, and I know, like, it has put my mind at ease that I'm not a crazy person. I've had crazy experiences, and I felt crazy my whole life because of it. So them talking about this in like real life out in the public, and them reading the language that they're going to do all these things to help the cause along, or to help get information out and hold the government, the agencies within the government accountable, that literally kind of like, that was the time where I was like, holy shit, this is real. Like, I know it's real, but how real is it now that it's going into the Senate or into legislation talk?
It's written down.
Yes, it's exactly. And I remember when they did, you know how this past month or two, like I guess the beginning of November, it's been kind of like passed around, like the language of the Gillibrand amendment, or the Gillibrand Rubio Gallego amendment. I keep forgetting to make it specific because of I know there's a lot to just that. There's more Gillibrand amendments than just this one, but like that, when they first had the first count of like, because there was a point where they did have the Senate, and everybody counted it up. We thought it was going to be like official, and then it went back. But when the first time that happened, I literally started crying, because I have been, like so many, the stigma. Like I saw my first UFO when I was 5. So like I'm 30, I'll be 38 in February. So that's like that whole time of me feeling like a crazy person and trying to talk to people and find people that have had experiences or that are interested in, in UFOs. And I know it's a silly thing, but I mean, it's a lonely road until you find people that are like-minded, especially with this sort of thing. Because even with like paranormal stuff, like spirits and ghosts and like the witch stuff I do, like that's easy to find. People love ghosts. People love witchcraft. You know what I mean? So, but with the UFOs, people were just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Even some of the spiritual people I knew were like, no, man, that's weird. So I remember I messaged Dan Zetterstrom from the Signal. And I was like, bro, I'm like crying right now. I'm super emotional. And he's like, I feel it, man. Like, so I do say that was it. Another thing was when Lou was talking about, obviously, like you made a video about this, the whole like somber. It was it the last video you made, the DNA one?
No, that one was a
Okay,
few weeks ago.
okay. It's I think that it's just like I think you might have it pinned or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Okay. That one, like to me, was when people are talking about that a lot right now, that to me was another thing where I was like, holy crap, like we all might be like closer to these things than we realize.
There's more to the story than we realize.
Yeah. But is it really a shock when we look back at ancient literature and ancient texts, like all the way back to Sumeria? We've been told these things came from the sky. It's in a lot of different pantheons. It's in a lot of different religions that something came from the sky and made us, or something came from the sky and visited us. So why is it such a shock now? Is it because people want the science behind it, do you think?
People want tangible evidence that they can lay their hands on. And that's going to be a problem with something that doesn't want you to lay your hands on it. So
that's interesting.
and no one wants to think that people, like, we all want to think that we're the epitome of evolution, that we're the epitome of intelligence. So looking back at people, we want to say, oh, well, they just didn't know what they were talking about, and just dismiss them outright. No one wanted to believe that there was a flood that occurred 12,000 years ago when Graham Hancock was talking about it. And then we got the Younger Dryas data that's come forward with lots of academic support. And now everyone's going, there are 200 flood myths in all religions around the world about a catastrophe, like just like what he's describing. And now he's finally getting some validation of, after getting dragged through the mud and lambasted for so long about his hypothesis, just for even thinking about it. Now it's coming to the point where people are having to recognize something did happen that we don't know about.
Right.
And when you do start to think back over tens of thousands of years, how do we know what was going on back then? There are civilizations that sprung up and vanished that we can discover them now occasionally, and no one knew it before. So who knows what we're going to find next? We didn't know about the Denisovans. We didn't know about Florensis, whatever the little ones were. There's all kinds of different branches of mankind, or hominids out there. Who knows what we could have overlooked? Another I'm a big Graham Hancock fan, by the way. You'll probably pick up on that if you watch my stuff. But he said that if you're going to try to look for something that's 5,000 years old, you're going to dig down to that 5,000-year-old level, and then you're going to stop. But what's to say that if you dug down another foot, you wouldn't find something that was 6,000 years old? Or if you just stop because you think you found it, you're not going to find anything else, because you're going to stop yourself from advancing your knowledge, because you're going to think you know it all. You should be a little more humble with your understanding of the world. We just don't have all the answers.
And that's very synonymous for everything. Anytime we think we know everything, if you say that you know everything and you stop there, why are you even here? I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but if you don't think past your comfort zone, and this doesn't just have to be with stuff like this. This could be something like like you said, your wife's a workout instructor. There's always new things that are coming, or workout fanatic. Like there's always new workouts. There's always new information coming out. So I'm sure people that she dives deep on that, but that's her version of what you're diving into. And like he said, that's so synonymous to like us gaining knowledge and growing as a human being. Like you need to keep thinking. And if you stop thinking at any point, like you said, there's that next thing you might learn that might change your life or really just like open your mind in a way or give you some sort of understanding. But if you stopped like today, just researching, investigating, wondering, reading, whatever, then you would just, why are you even here? Like it's a horrible, I don't mean it in like a horrible way, but I mean it in a sense that I like Graham Hancock too. So I'm like, yes, he's so deep. Like everything he says, I'm like, oh, like not, I mean, there's some stuff he said, I was like, wait a minute, buddy, but not a lot. Like I do like him a lot. So yeah, I love that you brought that up because you also talked about in that video the 70,000 years ago, we went through this big crisis and there's all the controversy.
Yeah, the population dropped to between 2 and 10,000 people, and that was it. And we almost went extinct. Yeah. So why would Lou mention that particular event and information being written into our DNA about it? So what does that mean? Like when you start reading between the lines, it could make for an interesting conversation about what does it mean to be man? What does it mean to be human? What if it's not mankind, it's mankind's?
Yeah, that line.
Mean? So
that really got me too when he said that. I was like, I feel like a lot of us know that. Like we feel like we know that. We feel like we realize there's other things.
I feel like I know it, but I'm even in this conversation terrified to say what I think it is because it's tough to say.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But we have talked a little bit about stigma. That's going to be the next stigma. Right now, the stigma that's breaking is just talking about it in general, like very top level. There's a light in the sky. There's a craft. There's this thing. We don't know what it is. That's the first thing that is getting out of the way right now. The next thing is going to be more people coming forward with their experiences. And then from there, people are probably going to try and validate those experiences. So we're going to have better validation techniques for experiencers and all that stuff. So like you just saying, I think that you should, you're in a position to kind of start breaking the mold, and you are definitely, but don't hold back. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I know it's scary. Trust me. I can talk about all sorts of crazy things, but when it came to this and sharing things that I've experienced, I was like in shambles about it. Like I was talking to the girls from that one time I was abducted by aliens, and I like broke down several times because I had never said it out loud, knowing that it was just going to go out into the internet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I totally get the fear, but then it's just like, I had to push myself because I want people to be able to do the same thing. So if I'm not doing it, then I'm not contributing to the breaking of the stigma, I guess.
And I do not put my theorizing into my videos. I try to make them just here's the information I put forward. But since we're on a podcast where I can speculate a little bit more, I will kind of try to tie things together a little bit. What John Ramirez has been saying lately about the alien human hybrid thing, and its relationship to what Lou said, it leads me to think that at that 70,000 year mark, we were reduced in a population that was not going to survive. And if there was ever a time that our species would have needed some intervention to help our survival, that would have been the time. Like shortly after that, Homo erectus went extinct. So we were probably going to go that route and die off. But maybe something came in and said, hey, we're going to help you guys out, give you this characteristic trait, and allow you to survive and keep the party going, I guess. So that's what I'm thinking that Lou's hinting at. That's what I'm thinking that John Ramirez is thinking at. That's what I think is written into our DNA, is that we almost went extinct, but someone stepped in and allowed us to survive by some means. And I don't know how you tweak human DNA if maybe it's CRISPR technology or, however they have. I don't know what that means exactly. If they could just say, we're going to take a pinch of this that we've got and give it and put it in your soup and see how that works out for you. And it's seems to have allowed us to
Right.
conquer the world or
Yeah.
destroy it,
Yep. Both.
whichever
All
way
of
you want
it.
to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not really that far out there. Like I'm like since I could read, I was reading about other religions, and I bust out the old ass encyclopedias, like the set. I don't even think
Britannica
people.
or world
Yeah, yeah.
books.
I remember my grandma had like a set, so I would go through those and just read about different things. But I just feel like the more I look to the past, it's like we're playing catch up. Like we knew this, and then a period went on where nobody cared about it, and now it's kind of resurfacing again, with the whole DNA thing, because since the beginning of time people have talked about us being melded with these sky gods, right? So definitely speculation, of course, but I have been listening to a lot of the Ramirez stuff, because I think he's a beautiful person. Like I just love to hear him talk. The way he talks about when he meditates and everything about him. I want to believe what he says so badly. Did you read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon?
I've started it. I haven't gotten through it, man. It's a heavy
You really
lift.
gotta open the mind, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of speculated on that, but what do you think's operating these crafts? Do you think what is we have all the different hypotheses about the future us, extra dimensional, interdimensional, ultra dimensional, subterranean, in the ocean. Which one resonates with you? Like which one do you think, or is it
So
both?
Berlinghoff Rasmussen, I believe is how you pronounce his name, on Twitter has put an potential origins of UAP infographic together where he lists all of those different possibilities.
Oh, I think I've seen
So
that.
you can kind of break down which ones seem more probable than others. The ones to me that I migrate to are going to be the ones that are of Earth. Like the extraterrestrial one is there's some big question marks and big gaps that would prevent me from saying, well, it's obviously somebody coming from a long way away. It's not an impossibility. There's a lot of information that humans don't possess that maybe they do that allow them to get here. So that is a possibility, but it doesn't explain the sexual overtones associated with the abduction phenomenon. And
Yeah.
that's something that Mac Tonys points out in his crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, where why would an alien species need to replicate with us or breed with us? What benefit would it be to something that is so foreign to us? Our DNA wouldn't
Right.
be compatible
Exactly.
in the way that it is with other primates. So that leads me to think that whatever it is, it's of Earth. It's from here. It's just ahead of us. And so that leads me to the oceans. There's so much in the oceans that we don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
We got all
Yeah.
these all this USO activity. I mean, if you just want to hide from humans, go in the water.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty
absolutely.
easy. And that's why Abyss is one of my favorite movies
Such a
right
good
now.
movie. So freaky, but so good. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. When you're
Um,
watching that movie, you're just like, oh, I would die if I was in that situation, like of fear.
and the oceans also lead you to, even if it wasn't ET, like there's water worlds out there.
Oh,
I think there's one that's 35,000 or 35 million, 35 light years away. I might be getting the distance
yeah.
incorrect, but they said that there's a water world out there. So if it's miles deep all around, a mile deep ocean all over the planet, and they come to Earth, they're
Right.
not coming to the surface. They're going to go in the water
They're
where they're
fine there.
comfortable, where
Yeah.
the pressure's right for them. That's exactly the theory behind, or the backstory of the extraterrestrial intelligence associated with the abyss, is they came here from an ocean world.
Right.
So it's in my opinion, it's something earthly. The interdimensional one's harder for me to understand. So
Yeah. For
I
sure.
can't wrap my mind around it. So it's hard for me to say, well, that's what it is. Well, I don't know what that even is. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
hard for
even
me to put it
spooky,
in a
like the more you dive
box.
into
Yeah.
it.
But that one leads to the high strangeness aspect of
Oh,
it.
yes. Yes.
And that's the thing to me that is such a big question mark. Is the nuts and bolts craft are pretty easy to put in a box, but this high
Yeah.
strangeness stuff,
Yeah.
this ability to know where the cat point was
Oh, yeah.
for David Fravor's next move, how does it do that? How do they
Yeah.
interact with our nuclear computers or whatever it is that's running those things? How do they interfere with that? How is Skinwalker Ranch happening? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's insane. It's pretty spooky when you think about it. Like I said, being a witch, I've done a lot of like journey work. And last year during COVID, I did like a priestessing class, and my mentor at the time had a lot of different. She learned from a lot of different, I guess, spiritualities, and she was doing shamanic journeying, and there's some weird experiences that come out of it, and you can use entheogenic plants, not as crazy as ayahuasca or mushrooms. Like, for example, cacao. If you take enough cacao, it'll take you on a little ride. So we did a ceremony like that, and I had this whole like singularity thing happen. And it's happened to me before, like a long time ago when I took mushrooms and was meditating in Sedona, of course, normal person stuff. But I just saw like the planets and everything. It was freaking weird. Like, and people have described this too. Like, you see everything without time and in boundlessness, and everything just kind of being how it's supposed to be. So the high strangeness thing, to me, I've thought about it a lot. I grew up in a house with a medium, so we had a lot of paranormal activity. I go to these haunted tours, not often, but I've been to enough to be like, this is there's something going on here, especially when people take the EMF readers and they're going crazy. That whole high strangeness thing. There's even people that say they get a feeling before they're about to have an experience, or before like a craft will be outside. So some people say they get woken up like in the middle of the night.
Shoot, Dorothy Izot. Do you know her?
The name sounds familiar. I'm sure
she had that connection. So she was a Canada, I want to say British Columbia, Canada, okay. Or maybe Vancouver. I'm getting it wrong.
Yeah.
But she could record object lights in the sky, and then one frame in her 8mm camera.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Her story, her movie that they made about her is amazing. Like, if you haven't seen it,
it's the Beings of Light movie or something like that.
It's such a good movie. And
I need to rewatch it.
It is definitely something where there was communication going on back and forth between her and whatever that is. And it's her story. She's got a special place in my heart because she's such a sweet lady. And
definitely.
I mean, you just look at her and like, I want her to be my grandmother. Like,
and you believe her what she says. She seems so genuine when she's talking about it.
And she seems, no offense, not technically savvy enough to be able to fake things. Or
especially with those cameras, right? So
it's wild what she went through.
And a lot of people are actually going through that still. It's she's like the most famous, but I was just talking to somebody earlier, and she has like similar experiences. I've had similar experiences. Like, a lot of experiencers have that. They just get this like weird, like high strangeness phenomena before something happens. How that could be studied, I don't even know, but it's definitely interesting to think about. And it's definitely spooky, like when you're laying in bed at night thinking, I'm embedded in dimensions upon dimensions right now, and like right next to me there's like the spirit world, and then the other side there's some other dimension with possibly some non-human intelligences that are just blipping in and out. It's just definitely spooky to think about late at night, but also cool. And then when you look into the the whole science behind parallel worlds, that definitely adds a layer to it, and it makes it feel more legitimate. And then you're really spooked at night sometimes. I have like an insomniac, so like I wake up like at 2 and I'm just like, let's think about weird things and scare myself when everyone's asleep. But so it's definitely a cool thing. But like you said, like wrapping your head around it, you kind of go a little bit crazy because it's impossible to understand it right now with the way we're taught and what we understand.
So I wonder if insomnia is a common trait in the UFO community, because I had, I call it a borderline insomnia, particularly when I was a kid. And that's when I would be up late at night thinking about what if, what about that? What about this? And I couldn't shut my gear. I couldn't turn it off. So I would just stay up all night long thinking about random things like that and freaking myself out, thinking about what does infinity mean? That is still one of the most scariest things to me. What does it mean to be alive forever? That kept me up many, many nights. But then there would be alien talk and in between my ears and things like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think it might be, because I remember one night I was thinking about like the vastness of space, and it was after doing some meditation. It was talking about that, and then I decided that I was trying to. I do lucid dreaming, so I was gonna do that in a lucid dream, and I started dreaming, and you catch yourself kind of in that in between sleep and awake to lucid dream, and in this lucid dream, I'm like starting to lift out of my body and into the universe. And it was so real that I freaked out, because I started to feel the vastness of the universe. And then I just like was like awake all of a sudden, and like couldn't breathe, and was like hot. It was like super weird, but I was like, what the hell did I just do? That was super weird and creepy, because you feel like how small are we, you know? We're tiny, and that's just in our universe. So if we've got these parallel universes happening, like you're like infinitesimally tiny. So
Well, don't forget, we're not only tiny in size, we're also tiny in time. Like our 80
yes,
years on this planet is such a drop in the bucket for when you compare it to the length, the time frame that the universe operates on. We're just
absolutely
a flash. We are lightning, like right now.
right.
Like, and that's one of the things that's always drawn my attention to Lou, is the cigarette analogy, where he talks about the cherry is the present for us, but what if the cherry was bigger for these other entities, and they could
Yeah,
absorb, or their perspective of time is different than ours. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
hard to wrap your mind around too.
Oh yeah, definitely, because like what time to us is governed by Newtonian physics. And how do we know, like that's to our planet, like every planet has different densities, different sizes. How do we know? And we can monitor that, right? Like we monitor like how time changes if we're traveling in space, but how do we even know that's real, because we haven't been up there? But we are heading to the hour mark. Do you have time for some questions from the live and one that
Yeah.
somebody sent?
I actually see one that I
You
have
see one?
questions about right now.
Oh, okay. Show me who
Alien
it
Lives
is.
Matters.
Which
Nimitz
one?
dropped 80,000 feet into the ocean. So what I hear people say is that it went from 80,000 feet to sea level in 0.78 seconds. But if you ever listen to Kevin Day talk, the guy that was manning it, he says 28,000 feet
My
to
goodness.
50 feet in 0.78 seconds. So that's one thing that has always confused me as far as inconsistency, which this topic is rife with inconsistencies and contradictions. But that's one thing that I can't state either way. I want to believe
Right.
Kevin Day over anybody
Of
else.
course. Yeah, he seems so real. Alien Lives Matter actually messaged me a question, kind of about your opinions on the dead or alive UAP statement inside the NDAA. What are you kind of posted briefly about it on a tweet, but how do you feel about that being inside the amendment?
So I think he's talking specifically about the word captured
Yes,
being
yes.
used in regards to UAPs. What technology can we gain from captured UAPs? And actively going out and trying to catch the tiger by the toe is a bad idea, in my
Yes.
opinion. There, it's like maybe we could grab a baby cub. What would happen if a mama bear came out from behind a tree down the path that we might not want to
Yeah.
see what happened? So I think it's a bad idea if we want to live in heart. Um, Nathan Twining put out a memo back in 1947, and he was describing UAPs at the time as real and not fictitious, not something made up. And they appear to have to be very evasive. So to me, back in 47, they were even saying, well, these things don't want to mess with us.
Yeah.
They're trying to stay away. They're non-confrontational. I don't want to bring conflict, and I don't want to something that's non-confrontational, because if you back anything into a corner,
Yes.
a sick animal doesn't want to mess with you, but if you back it up, it's got nothing to lose. I don't like the word captured being in there.
Yeah.
I would like some more definition on exactly what they mean when they say that. That's the
Right.
one word in there. And yeah, I made a video that had that, and I said, shake my head, no, we don't. I don't want to
Yeah.
capture
Yeah.
one of those things.
Yeah. Even Ross Coulthart had spoken about it too recently. That people are telling him that we basically have disabled crafts. We have disabled them, not like we have the disabled craft, but we have purposely, you know, put some out, and that's
I,
very scary.
yeah, I think the exchange rate between human lives and alien lives isn't going to be in our favor if we get into a
No,
conflict. I think we're going to be on the losing end of that stick.
right. So, does anybody else have any questions? So, we have a lot of interesting comments. People are saying the insomnia thing is linked with abduction, which a lot of people that have had these abduction experiences or being taken, however you want to word it, experiences, they do have a lot of them have like the sleep paralysis thing, which is a whole different interesting topic because yes, our body does that, but so many people have experienced it as kids before being exposed. Like obviously we're reading about this all the time. We're studying. We're going to have some alien dreams, right? But the difference to me is like with the sleep paralysis and people like wake up with markings or very sick the next day. That's always interesting when I hear stuff like that. But
Yeah. So I ask myself, like, why did Travis Walton get abducted? Why did Betty and Barney Hill get abducted? What is
yeah,
it about it that made them desirable, I guess I'll call it? But then
yeah,
I also turn around and say, well, what is it about me that makes them not want to show themselves to me? Like Stan Freeman never saw a UFO. Don
yeah,
Kehoe never saw a UFO. Like, what is it about us that doesn't, like, because everybody says that if you see a UFO, it's because it wanted you to see it. But
yeah,
why don't they want me to see them? Why?
yeah. I
What
wondered
am
that
I
too.
missing, or what have I got that's not desirable to
Right.
them? And that leads back to, well, what Lou said, or not Lou, John Ramirez said, like some are more enhanced, maybe have some
Mm.
more enhanced DNA than others. Is that what the future is going to hold? Is that what's going to come out of this?
Yeah, other people have brought that up, and John Ramirez definitely does a lot of spiritual practice and energetic practices. I've heard him talking about chakras before and meditation, and and I do that. I'm a spiritualist, mystic, witch, whatever you want to call me. But I'm also like a year out from finishing my molecular biology degree, so I understand the science aspect and how research works. And I love reading physics books for fun. So I feel like I'm well rounded, but we would all like to think that like, about ourselves. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like why I've even gone down the whole like blood type rabbit hole. Like who are they taking? Obviously, we know the Rh negatives and the O's, and maybe what's your blood type? Maybe you're an A and they don't like that.
And O positive, yeah.
Oh, see, they should definitely be taking you. I don't know what you're doing wrong.
I'm
There's
not holding my tongue right. That must be what it is.
you're staying up the whole night instead of falling asleep and letting them take you.
Could be.
Yes. So I don't see any more questions. Do you have any questions for the live feed or for me or anything else you wanted to talk
Well,
about?
I was gonna ask you for an update on how did you get hooked up with Andy and Dan over at that UFO podcast? How did that all play out?
I have no idea. I've been talking to Dan he's part of the book club. He like the second one he almost didn't come to, but he ended up coming anyway. So he's totally part of it, whether he likes it or not. But I've kind of been talking to Dan randomly. He's one of those people that I just kind of like was super nice when I joined the community. It's a great community once you're in it, but it's very intimidating at first.
Oh yeah.
So I was definitely like I loved his like artwork and his NUAP secrecy stuff and his the seal that he did that looks like has the eagle on it, So I loved all that stuff, and then we just kind of started chit chatting here and there. So I don't know if he like pointed Andy in that direction, but I don't know. Andy just messaged me one day and I was like, and I've been following their podcast. Like, that's like my favorite podcast. So I'm a bit like, oh, like, like that's my favorite podcast. So if I had to listen to one, it's going to be that UFO podcast. So I know I shared a lot of their stuff. I don't really know exactly how he thought he should contact me, but he did, and was like, hey, I have this idea, and he wanted to do it with a couple newer podcasts that weren't specifically UFO, but because he's like, well, I don't want somebody that's doing the same thing I'm doing 100%. People with different outlooks on the phenomenon, or people doing different things, kind of thing. And somebody told him to put me in the running, and I guess he agreed. And so basically, I'm just going to send him my video and audio, and he's going to put it on their website and their other platform. So that's what's happening, and I don't know how it happened.
They're looking to diversify, is what it sounds like. They want a diversified portfolio.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because there's so many. Maybe just sharing some of he was kind of put it like sharing some of the fortune that he's had with listeners. So I think it's interesting, because if you would have told me even at the beginning of this year that I would have a YouTube or a podcast about this, if you told me I would have had like a microphone and these freaking lights and a green screen on the wish list, I don't know that I don't think I would have believed you. I was talking about the witchy things. I was doing metaphysical, like meditation, balancing your chakras, crystals, and herbs, the witchy stuff. I've always had obviously the UFO thing, but who else is going to listen? It's a very small group of people that listen. It feels big now because I'm in the group, but outside of the group, it feels like nobody cares. Like I'm more likely to talk to somebody about a spirit guide, ascended master, than I am an extraterrestrial possibly visiting.
Yeah.
In most cases. So yeah, I did not think this was going to happen. But I will say the phenomenon has definitely always pulled me. It seems like once a year I would get in this stage, like, don't forget about this. Even with my metaphysical teaching, I did a whole class on like star seeds and star lineage, because I just couldn't not talk about something weird, I guess. So yeah, it just happened. And it's super weird. I don't know how you feel about synchronicity, but literally the night before Andy talked to me, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, it's fun. Like, I love talking to people, but what am I doing? Am I supposed to be doing this? Or like, should I just be like taking more classes, or, throw the kids in daycare and take full-time classes this upcoming semester or whatever? But I was like, okay, no, I'm sick of these. Like, I ask for a sign and I get these stupid things I don't understand, like weird dreams that don't make sense, or super vague messages, I guess. And it was like literally like the next day I was like, okay, I'm sick of this shit. Just tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. Tell me I'm on the right path. Tell me I'm supposed to be doing this because I'm enjoying it. So I want a reason to do it. But on top of that, I just need to know why I'm doing it. I still don't know why, just besides I love it. And the next day he messaged me. And I thought he was just going to, because it started with, oh, thanks for like, sharing the show. And I was like, oh, he must reach out to listeners, every once in a while and say thank you for listening. But yeah, I'm excited, but nervous.
Congratulations.
No, thank you.
So you mentioned that Max Moskovich's show, when he interviewed Lou, I believe is with the one you talked about specifically.
Yeah.
And to me, it relates to what you're describing right now. Like, hey, am I wasting my time? What am I doing here? Should I be doing something else?
Yeah.
So during that Lou Max interview, I had my moment of exhale. Okay, this is all for a reason, or it was my moment of levity, because at the very end of his first interview with Lou, Lou said, Max, I just wanted to congratulate you on being on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when he said those words, to me, like I had tension in my body, and he said those words, and I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. Someone is telling us someone that we respect is telling us that we're on the right side of history, which is the side that I thought I've been on. I didn't know I needed to hear it. Yeah. I heard it, and then I realized that I needed to hear it at that moment. So that's one of the moments of this year that I think is
absolutely
a game changer for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're so used to the stigma, right? Like we're so used to not talking about it and not and feeling like it's a silly thing to put your mind into and your energy into. And all of a
Yes.
sudden, we've got a lot of the world. I'm going to say a lot of the world, even though it's not a lot of the world focusing on it and acknowledging it for as reality. Like our kids are growing up in a world where people are just going to be talking about these UFOs and UAP like they are just normal things, which is
Yeah.
pretty like mind blowing to me still. So
So
we
I,
have
I think I jumped to the answer I was going to give
okay.
to this
Yeah, I was
question.
gonna say, was that your answer?
I think that's pretty much it. Like, the biggest takeaway is Lou's got multiple gears. I thought we lost him when he left TTSA, but he was just
Mm,
shifting into second gear. We're firmly in third gear. Who knows what's going next? But as far as the takeaways, him saying that we're on the right side of history has been something that has stuck with me for months at this point, and it felt like a pat on the back to all of the community, even though the people that hate him are gonna say something about it. One
yeah,
of the things that he has consistently stated is that you should take the data in and think for yourself. I don't know what kind of a guy that's trying to mislead you would be also encouraging you to critically look at the information and think for yourself. So, thinking for yourself is the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from listening to Lou this year, and that's what I'm trying to do: is take the data in and digest it, mull it over, and see if there's any tie-ins to other information that I've heard that would back it up, and just think
right.
for myself and encourage people, the people that watch my videos, to think for themselves. Don't take
Yes,
my word for it. Don't trust me. That's what our entire community should be, is encouraging people to critically think about what's going on and decide for yourself what it means.
absolutely. And I think that you do that well. You even did, I think, yeah, I feel like your videos do that anyway, because it's like if somebody's interested in something you mentioned, there's so much more to research about that topic.
Yeah.
You
And
kind of
I'll
give us like the cliff notes of it, and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm
Exactly.
gonna go
So
look at that.
you hit the nail on the head. Like, I am the table of contents for UFO Twitter and podcasts. Like,
Perfect.
I will give you just enough to get you interested in it. And if you watch my videos, I always try to reference the channels that have good podcasts about it, or videos about a topic that I'm covering. I always try to direct them towards someone else in the community that has covered this topic ad nauseum. Because, like I said, this is a long form topic. This is a difficult conversation to have. This is a
Oh, yeah.
nuanced conversation. I can't do it in under 3 minutes. But I can. Tupac had a comment that he said, "I can't change the world, but I might be able to spark the brain that can." And that's what
Yeah.
I hope to do. I hope that there's someone that doesn't know anything about the topic that sees my video. Maybe they're the person that can figure this
Yeah.
out.
A
Maybe
fresh set
they're
of
the next
eyes.
Jacques Vallée. Yeah, fresh set of eyes. Get them interested in the topic and have them be the next generation. So that's one of my hopes for my channel, is reach out to new people. We tend to talk in an echo chamber on UFO Twitter and all of our forums. So I'm trying to use TikTok as a way as an outreach program.
Yeah, I think that's a great mission too, and I'm glad that you know that you're doing it. This is an interesting question. What is the connection between having paranormal activity or after a UFO sighting? I think that's a lot of question. I mean, that's a common question, but I don't know that anybody can answer that with a like confidently say they know the answer. We
I
could
think
definitely.
I can point towards it's all about quantum mechanics. Like, I
Oh
don't know if
yes,
it's like
thank
a
you.
remnant of
Yes,
that, like the quantum thing,
yeah,
as
the
has been something
entanglement and such. Yeah.
I've been struggling with trying to understand, and the quantum world's connection to consciousness. Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
that's something, and I don't quote Tom DeLonge often, but he did say, if you want to understand UFOs, it's the nexus between consciousness and quantum physics. So there's something there. I don't know what it
Yeah.
is. I assume there's paranormal activity associated with quantum mechanics. I don't know. Real quick, something else that blew my mind when I learned about it earlier this year is Kevin Day had his experience on
Oh,
the
yeah.
Nimitz and had to get it out. Like he wrote a
Yeah.
book, basically a fiction based on fact
Oh,
book,
wow.
and it's in the Library of Congress or something. He wrote, the event occurred in 2004. He wrote his book and submitted it in 2009. And in 2009, he was saying in that book, there was a connection to quantum mechanics associated with what he saw with the tic tac.
Right.
I want Kevin Day, if you're listening to this, I would love for you to explain how you got to
Yeah.
quantum mechanics so quickly and so far ahead of all of the rest of the UFO community. Like, how did that happen? How did you link those two things together? That's the question I
Maybe.
have for Kevin Day.
Yeah, I think we would all love to hear that. Maybe he had like some sort of experience. Well, that's why people ask me, what is the whole quantum witch thing about? I just came to the conclusion you have to take physics for your biology degree, Bachelor of Science. So, and I've always read things like that just because it's interesting to me. But that's when people are always asking, oh, what kind of witch are you? What kind, are you a green witch? Are you this witch? Are you a star witch? Or, you know, there's all these witches you could be. And I was like, I don't know. I really I love magic, but at the same time, I feel like magic is just quantum mechanics, and all these unexplainable things that have happened to me during like meditations or rituals is going to be a link between like consciousness and entanglement and physics that we don't quite understand yet. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because I've experienced that, and that's what I think is the big connector. And a lot of people do. And even at the bottom of slide 9, you know, the whole like slide 9 thing.
Yes.
At the bottom, it says that too. It says what was once considered phenomena is now just explained by quantum physics.
So
you guys know. Come on, Kevin, you got to tell us.
So I've got a pet theory that I've been working on, and it's basically like there's galaxy-sized objects, there's Earth-sized objects, there's human-sized objects. We just drill down and down until we get to the quantum level. At some point, is there a change of state? Like if you have ice and it hits 32 degrees, there's a change of state that goes from ice, from solid to liquid. Is there something similar to that between our physical world and our conscious world? If we hit the quantum level, is there a tipping point where it then converts over to our conscious world?
Yeah.
And is there a change of state at that particular tipping point? And some beings can cross over it or manipulate it to be able to get on that side of the tipping point or come back on the physical side of it. That's one of my theories, like what's below quantum level.
Yeah, that's a very interesting theory, and it does visually, like I'm seeing as you're talking about this, it does make a lot of sense. Like the way you're explaining it.
You basically drill down to nothing. You drill down to nothing,
and so then you're everything. Yeah.
Exactly. You can go either way. You nowhere to go but up when you're in the bottom of a valley. So maybe that's it.
Have you read the? Oh my gosh, it's about the gateway process paper. Have you read the gateway process paper?
No, I don't think I've even heard of that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to send it to you, because there is a part in it where it talks about like wavelengths, and when there's at Planck's distance, they reach a certain point where they basically like blip out of the space-time continuum. And since your brain is also your thoughts are waves, we do that through entering a certain point of like brainwave activity. And that's like the condensed version of this. But it's a very cool paper. It was one of the declassified papers. So I think I have it on my Google Drive. So I'll get your email after this, or you can message it to me and I can send that to you.
Okay, that'll work.
But yeah, it's really interesting. It took me a couple times to read it, because it's very like you had to reread some parts, because it does involve consciousness and quantum mechanics. So it's great though. Once it clicks, you're like, that is so cool. I never thought of that. Like,
so you just described my reading technique is reread the same paragraph over and over again before you move on to the next one. That's why I haven't finished Skinwalkers at the Pentagon.
Oh my gosh!
Like I've only read, like my entire life, I've only read textbooks and nonfiction things. Like I've never read for fun. It's never clicked for me. Like I want to gain something, gain knowledge,
exactly.
not just have a good time reading. Like so when I read, like you said, I read it and I have to sit there and think about
Yep.
it, and then like, what did it say again? Like, it is, am I interpreting
Yes.
this correctly? So that's why I'm a slow reader,
No, I'm the
unfortunately.
same way. I study, I don't read. Like you said, like I think that like I bought one fiction book, and I wasn't learning from it, so I didn't want to read it anymore. But I
Yeah,
kind of
and I
kill
was like,
myself.
what did I get out of doing this? I just spent a lot of time reading a book.
Yeah, about some imaginary broad and dude traveling and like doing things that never happened. Like I just can't do it. Like I've never been able to. I mean, I think I read like maybe a Harry Potter book or two back in the day, but now like I study it. I had to have sticky notes. I had to have a notebook. I'm a freaking asshole when it comes to it. I will like write in the book, which I know is going to kill people when they hear that. I rabbit ear, like they're my books. I want to live. I want people to know I lived in those books because I reread so I understand and learn. But yeah, that you're not alone in that. And I'm sure there's plenty more people, which is brings me to the UAP book club, which you are obviously welcome if you decide to finish a book one day. I'll start sending you the books. Right now we're reading Operation Trojan Horse by Keel, Mr. Keel, and I cannot have that author on because he's passed.
Yeah.
So, but it's supposed to be a really good book, and I'm a couple chapters in, and it's it's really good. There's not a lot of fluff to it, which I like in books. But yeah, I think that it might challenge you to finish a book within a month. And then you can come talk about it with us because I think you'd be a great addition one day, whenever you're ready to finish a book, of course, to come on our book club and talk about it.
So it's funny that you're talking about this right now because my latest addiction is buying old UFO books. So
Oh my gosh.
I've been on eBay buying those things up left and right because there's such an amazing history. And there's no drones in
Oh
1955
yeah,
when
you're
some of
right.
these books are written. So there's so much that you can take off the table when you try to read them. I'm reading, or I've read most of Don Quixote's 1953. I can't remember exactly what year it came out. The Flying Saucers Are Real, like
Yeah,
his
he's
first book
amazing.
about UFOs. Like that's the one that I've been reading. I've been ordering different ones, so I'm going to start working my way through them as time allows.
Yeah, well, you'll have to drop a suggestion next book club so we can put that in the drawing to read.
So
Um,
Invisible Residents would be my recommendation. That one will
We're gonna
blow
have to
your
message
mind.
these things. You'll
Yeah.
have to. I know you probably have a badass list. You'll just have to. I'm gonna message you and say, give me your list. So even if you're not there, because we take suggestions from the live chat and from the people in the panel at the book club, and I literally put them in this like NUAP secrecy hat, and I literally pull it out of a hat. So, um, give me your list of books, and then maybe we'll lure you in if we pick one of your books, and you can join us.
All right. Sounds like
Um,
a good deal.
it's a scheme to get you to read faster. But I get it because
So
I'm the same as you.
So that one thing that is weird about me making TikTok videos is I've never read so much in my life. Like said earlier in this, like if you're consuming information, you read it once and you think you know it. When you're turning around trying to teach someone about that same information, you're going to reread it. You're going to dig deeper. You're going to make sure you have a more thorough understanding of the entire article that you're
Yes.
covering to do it. So as a byproduct of making silly TikTok videos about UFOs, I am diligently reading and investigating what's going on and these articles that come through. I used to just look at the headlines and maybe read the first paragraph or two, but now I'm digesting the entire contents of it. And like I said, going back and rereading certain articles that are relevant to the new information that's come out. Like
Yeah.
Brian Bender's articles are a valuable resource. You can go back to what he's written in the past. That guy, I don't know how he's doing it, but he is
Yeah.
really staying on top of it, making articles that are relevant to the time and they're relevant to what happens in the future somehow. So just keep an
Yeah.
eye on Brian Bender.
Yeah, for sure. And that we are. I'm sure we could talk about other things all night because I also want to ask you about your TTSA stuff, but I might have to have you on for a part two. That way I don't keep you forever because that's probably a whole nother hour of questions and answers and thoughts. So I put all your social media in the description, but if somebody's just listening, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Hey Look Over There, but look is spelled with a L-U-K. I think someone else had L-O-O-K. So Hey Look Over There. And you can find on my profile a link to my TikTok account where I'm the fifth pillar of emphasis. And I'm the fifth pillar of emphasis because of Lou Elizondo wanting to have the fifth pillar of emphasis be engaging with the masses, engaging with the people. And that's what my goal is on TikTok, is to engage with the masses, not just people that are already here.
Yes.
So you can find me there. I have a YouTube channel where I'm posting longer content. Occasionally, it's a heavy lift to get when I make YouTube videos because of the amount of research that goes into them. So I don't post them as frequently as I should, but I need to work on that. But yeah, fifth pillar of emphasis over at YouTube as well.
Awesome. I'll add that after we're done, so they have that one too. Hang out for a minute after we end the live, because I want to thank you on the backstage area, which sounds super weird because we're like in a virtual place.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave my chair. I'm just going to stay
here.
Yeah,
just sit there. I want to thank everybody that joined tonight in the live chat. We have Alien Lives Matter, Carolina, my hype woman. We have Megan, Rhoda, Laura Sosa, who is also amazing. I don't want to miss anybody. I've seen people in and out. Johan K42D. And I think that I got everybody. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, thank you so much for your support. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening on that UFO podcast and you're a new listener, thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. We have our next UAP book club coming up at the end of January. So please join us for that. I'll put more info on my social media. And we will be reading Operation Trojan Horse by Mr. Gill. So I'll post some pictures of that. And everybody have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.